Now, before going into details and explaining about Google's principles and mission, let me explain you why it's important to study these before applying at pretty much any company. And the first reason is because there is a possibility that you may not be a great fit into that company's culture, which is, by the way, not unheard of, especially since nowadays freelancing becomes more and more of a choice. So, and the other important reason here to read into a company's mission and values before applying is because it will give you lots of interesting insight as to how to prepare from the moment you write your CV to the phone interviews, all the way to the panel interview on site, and even while negotiating an offer with them. So, this being said, Google's mission is actually remained the same since 1998, and that is to organize the world's information and to essentially make it more useful. Now, if you look into Google's largest properties, that is search and YouTube, you'll know that they actually fit quite well into this mission. And by the way, also the other products such as Google's Chrome and even their cloud offerings also fit into this definition of organizing world's information and making it more accessible. So next I'm going to go through what Google calls their 10 things. And they invented this, they wrote this down during the first years of existence, and I'll also give you my 2 cents where I find some relevant information for somebody that's considering to apply for a job at Google. The first and probably also the most important one for Google is to really put the user at the center of everything they do. And I believe that given their monetization strategy here, that is through selling ads, I believe we can also extend this a bit by saying that the user is actually also Google's #1 customer. So we can say here that customer obsession is something is the main highlight here, and it's actually something that characterizes all the best online, including online businesses today. Google's specialty is search. So by specializing them on one thing and doing it really well is what enabled them to become such a successful business. Now, in an HR context, what does it mean for you? It means that if you're really good at one thing, be sure, for instance, AI, be sure that you highlight this wherever you can, including your CV. So for example, if your AI is your thing, make sure that it's right on top of the resume, it's not just the first item of some enumeration. And also, it is you might also consider it as a feasible idea to over-communicate what are your main strengths, because although for you it might sound a bit dumb in the beginning, it's actually a good idea to over-communicate things to emphasize them. So fast is better than slow. It's obviously a very technical reference to what Google is really good about, but with respect to somebody interested in working at Google, I believe the main highlight here is that you should really make sure that to really dive deep into any possible algorithms that they might ask you to develop there, and be sure that you can be sure that optimizations are a very, very sought after quality. Now, whether democracy on the web works or not, I believe that's a debatable topic. Now, what's in for an applicant here, I believe that the main takeaway is to not be afraid to communicate, to take the lead, and to have an opinion, because Google actually values a lot of people with opinionated people, and if you only Google a few Google HR related events in the recent years, you'll notice that pretty much all of them started using Google's internal communication system. So being a great communicator here is very, very important. Now, probably the main takeaway from this one is to have vision, because really Google predicted much better than other tech giants the mobile first world, and they really capitalize that on this one pretty soon. So having a vision is of course extremely helpful. Alright, so this one is still pretty much up for debate at Google, and especially since they become so good at developing AI. Because in case you don't know, one of the main applications, one of the best applications of AI is within a military context. And actually this is one of the main reasons why CEO Sundar Pichai has also recently launched their principles for developing AI, which is something that of the same structure of these 10 things. Now, with respect to their to getting a job at Google, what's the main takeaway here? Well, it's quite important because that sense of doing good should serve as a higher purpose, and you should be that type of person that gets motivated by these things and performs considerably better because of this sense of higher purpose. This one is again something extremely technical, and probably the main highlight is the creative nature of the community at Google. Google is an international business, and they have offices around the world, and they are not afraid to emphasize that they are using pretty much any tool at their disposal to deliver on the original mission of organizing the world's information. And probably the main takeaway here would be to have that, again, that sense of a higher purpose, and this should be the strongest motivator for you to do great things. So this one is probably the most interesting when it comes to giving you a glimpse into what Google values the most in employees. And aside from the dress code recommendation, they also go on to describe their employees as passionate people from diverse backgrounds with creative approaches to work, play, and life. So is this you? Does your CV reflect these things? Do you take advantage of any of these keywords? I believe this the information presented in this core value is fundamental to understanding and to approaching, especially the behavioral part of Google's interview, which I'll describe later. So this one should probably go without saying, but Google is actually really good at predicting what the user wants, and really about obsessing around that customer. And how they achieved it? Well, they achieved this through continuous iterations and being really good at predicting stuff.